Welcome to the co-conspirators, as I know
Thank you.
you are referred to at various points. And so this, Mayfield, your first major scheme in Manchester, how are you finding it?
Well, we've been here, in our various guises. I started buying real estate in Manchester 1995, I suppose. And so we feel that we've earned some right to talk about what's appropriate in Manchester, but this is obviously of a completely different scale. When we did City Park at Development Securities in the north of the city, that was a decent scale scheme, but this is the next level. And I think, we find people here to be collaborative, to want to get on and want to deliver a truly great space.
Mm-hmm. Richard?
Great city. Lovely raw materials. Welcoming people. I think it's the start of a very long relationship. The relationship started a few years ago, as Matthew outlined, but it's picking up some pace now.
Mm-hmm. And I want to talk to you a little bit about purpose. What motivates you both personally, and how does that inform you and I's approach to business, Matthew?
Yeah, so when we came together in 2014, it was founded on a concept that quality of place and profitability weren't mutually exclusive, that they were self-reinforcing, and that was something that we wanted to test each and every day. And I think that tension, which people describe us as a tension between chaos and order, is sort of the way that we want to live and grow our schemes. And I think it's a challenge, but solving that conundrum that why can't all great places be happy? It's not an exclusive right of Zone 1 London. It should be for all of the country. And I think, 4 years ago, we would have been considered to be an outlier to try and test that cold, hard financial test with a social purpose. I said it earlier, profit with purpose. And then in January, I've been carrying around this quote with me from Larry Fink, who's the CEO of BlackRock. So that's the world's largest asset manager with a trifling 6.4 trillion funds under management. And he said, which I think chimes with exactly our purpose, to prosper over time, every company must not only deliver financial performance, but also show how it's making a positive contribution to society. And companies must benefit all their stakeholders, industry, shareholders, employees, customers, and the communities in which they operate. And I don't think you can say it any better than that. That was the purpose on which our company was founded, and that's now right in the crosshairs of the public sector, end users, capital, and if we can help to be the mechanism by which that facilitates, and that's great for the business.
Mm-hmm. Richard, what motivates you personally, kind of helps you get out of bed in the morning?
There's beauty between order and chaos, and I think that's what we're searching for. Look, it's such a privilege to work with sites like this, just the raw materials, and that in itself is enough. But I never really grew up, probably. We like making camps, and the camps just got bigger and bigger and bigger and better and better. And we can, from here, we can inspire people like David West. We can watch his wings fly, then you have to bring him back down to the ground from time to time with a few project managers and QSs and our team. But to create an inspirational place where there's opportunity, where there's hope, where people can fall in love in a park. We have all of those big emotional dreams, and that's a real motivation to repair what's wrong in a community. Somebody was just talking about, it's not just about a new thing, a property development. We look really carefully at what's wrong and thoughtfully about how we might repair that. So if you can be part of that agency for change, that's hugely rewarding. Building a community and building with a community by engagement rather than an understanding is hugely rewarding. Inspiring our own genius talent, I think, to work out the myriad of complexities of a project like this and turn it into good business and great place. So I think all of those passions for creating place, repairing things, and creating an environment that hosts opportunity forever is just summed up in you and I. Our business, we're building a great business. But beyond that, we want to build a great business that informs other businesses, that perhaps, like Jonathan with food, we can work harder to get over some of the inertia that some very difficult areas and towns and cities in the country have in making their own transformational change.
And over the course of today, we've talked a lot about getting various partners around the table, partnership and collaboration, and you and I obviously, specialize in these public-private partnerships. But, especially now after the collapse of Carillion, maybe some very public criticism over things like PFI schemes, and, is there a private sector bad type impression that we need to get over, and how do we combat that?
Do you want to answer that?
Richard or Matthew?
Wow. It's about dialogue and it's about partnership. And I think, yeah, there is a lot of confusion. What's a PFI and what's a PPP? It doesn't really matter. At its heart, it's the combination of two elements to give greater productivity. The world's got a productivity problem. And our little part of that is probably sites like Mayfield, which is hidden in plain sight for 40 years. But the ability to improve productivity by bringing a dense mixed-use environment, it doesn't really matter what structure you do it in, as long as it's aligned, as long as it's fair, as long as it's open and it's transparent, and people can see that, and you consult and bring people along on your journey, then I don't think there should be a bad rap for partnership. You've got the public sector with a lot of sites which are difficult and require some expertise to unlock. We can provide some of that facilitation, but you can't land your spaceship in the middle of a community and expect it to blend seamlessly within the past. And overcoming that tension on consultation is a key part of what we do.
Mm-hmm. Richard?
There isn't a choice. Partnership is the only way. If we've any chance of driving forward the productivity, as Matthew says, of the country by building more homes, creating more jobs, and recycling our towns and cities where there's a need for repair, you have to have partnership. It won't work without it. There might be an ideological debate at the moment as to whether all property developers are bad and thoughtless and they're not engaging with the community and they are creating poor quality public realm and architecture and taking too much profits. But I would challenge that on every single project we have. At the last count, I think there's over £300 billion worth of public sector land. So government in the round is the largest owner of brownfield land in the country. It needs the energy and the entrepreneurialism of a great partner and their risk capital to create great places. The ideological issue might be about engagement and disenfranchisement, perhaps. That perhaps people are marginalised and too many projects called regeneration are gentrification, and they're not engaging and they're not thoughtful and they're not local. And if the debate that's happening at the moment about partnership exposes some of those truths, great.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Do we have any questions for Matthew and Richard from the floor? Or one towards the front here?
So let's imagine we're in 2030 and you're walking around Mayfield. What does it look like and feel like? So what does success look like or feel like for you? Who's falling in love in the park, for example?
Our greatest desire is to create an authentic place that is world class. We have that naked ambition here. It has to promote Manchester on a world stage, and so one of the working essays we had when we were bidding was, if Google or Uber or somebody else that's a fast-moving, productive business, we're going to come to Manchester, where would it come first? Where would it use buildings and spaces and parks to leverage the intellectual capital it has? I mean, the building costs, your rental costs on an office building are a fraction. They're 10% of your overall intellectual capital costs. And so by creating a place that's truly inspirational for business at a global scale, in a way that adds to the offer in Manchester, is key at an economic level. As important, perhaps more important, would be to create a place where anyone that lives in the surrounding area can feel like they can walk through and feel like they belong. They're not excluded. They're not walking across some privately procured patio with keep off the grass. It's sort of come on in. It's your place too. You can buy a pint of milk somewhere at the same cost as it would cost you somewhere else. So the key for authenticity, I think, is inclusivity, and that goes back to the disenfranchisement element. And so elements of affordable workshops, constant engagement, a seasonality of occupiers and users of different tenures from different walks of life. So it feels like a subset of a very happy, engaging community. That would be great. Some of it, essentially, to learn that, the regeneration needs to be organic, ground up. The Bailey here, one of the sort of purpose things, one of the things that's great is you can connect with great entrepreneurs like Bailey, and you can give them a less impermanent place like this. And things happen. You can host, and things grow from that. So if we can foster, grow the organic, as well as the fancy master plan down, in 2030, hopefully, some of those things will mix. Maybe that's the order and the chaos, I don't know. But there's beauty in there. And we won't get everything right, but we'll be open and transparent about it, and we'll repair. And hopefully we'll foster some of the greatest enterprises, designers, and opportunities in Manchester that it's ever seen.
Thank you. Any more questions before we close? Another one? Brilliant. Microphone is coming to you.
Richard, not so much a question, a comment if I may. Regeneration has gone on in this city and many others since the Industrial Revolution. As most of the people in the room will identify, particularly in this city, we started in about 1995 with Great Bridgewater, moving on to Spinningfields, Noma, First Street, Noma, and latterly St John's Gardens. And we come now to Mayfield, which quite clearly is the jewel in the regeneration crown of this city. I would suggest that if you can deliver and harness all the attributes that we've heard so eloquently put this morning, you will set a new paradigm in regeneration. And I just urge you to do one thing, and that is do not dilute in any way the ambition that we've heard about this morning. Without exception, those regeneration schemes that I've alluded to, they've all been a little bit, to a greater or lesser extent, tweaked either in the core or at the edge. Not one of them has the golden opportunity that you have next to this nodal transport hub with the actual physical landmass to create this park. And I just merely urge you to live that dream and deliver your ambition. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob.
I'll just say one thing, actually. One of the first reasons that I ever thought Manchester was an interesting place to invest is because it twinned itself with Los Angeles. And I'd say that was a statement of intent in 1990-something that not many cities in the UK would do. I mean, like, people forget, I'm a born and bred Londoner. And London in the 1980s was not the place it is now. And, I think Bob's right. You have to grasp the challenge because this is the last part of the urban fabric of Manchester. And you need to propel it to the status that it deserves and to its own ambition.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. And Richard, I think the comment Bob's making about really steering it so, none of it's diluted and watered down. Are you up for that challenge?
Yeah, that's my job to keep it
I was
somewhere.
I was born for that challenge. James, are you up for that challenge?
Yeah.
He's up for that challenge. We're all up for that challenge, Bob. Thank you.
So just final point now from both of you. If you had to kind of choose one crucial ingredient, the most crucial ingredient in making a place that people really want to spend their time in, as we plan forward going into 2030. Matthew?
Quality of public realm. That the space stitched into the fabric of the city and reflects the fabric of the city. If you get place right, the rest will follow.
Mm-hmm. Richard?
Yeah, place exists already. The Hoyles Printworks here was world-class 200 or 300 years ago. Some of these buildings, in terms of their industrial heritage, are world-class. And so I just want to mention something for Catherine and others about heritage. It creates a unique sense of belonging and well-being. And so the raw materials we have here give us a real head start. Our counter, Bob, actually, so a lot of those regeneration projects are great regeneration projects for their time and have developed great inward investment in Manchester. Perhaps many didn't see this as the jewel in the crown for a time, but in terms of creating place with heritage, with a huge public park, maybe an indoor and an outdoor park. That is what will resound in 2030. I feel like I belong, it's for me, and it's a great place.
Thank you. So if you join me now, please, in thanking Richard, Matthew, and all of our other participants today.